Jazz has more, I expect. Well, no, they both have four manacles and two perma, I think. Maybe slightly differently. Uh, One thing that can be a big deal here is Jez gets 8 paintings. The Overmaster only gets 4.
Okay. How relevant do you think that is in the game?
It makes it harder for the Overmaster to play a 2-on-2. Uh, like we can see this hand, they're not going to be able to, where I expect basically any hand Jez keeps will be able to play a 2-on-2. Yeah, we're gonna see depleted power and then probably a turn 2 auto tread. Well, uh, Jez is going to get to play out an Iron Priest. Oh, actually, they might not draw power. This could get interesting if Jez doesn't draw any more power.
Well, there is a painting off the top, so that is helpful, but it's coming in depleted, so not going to be able to play out a 3-drop here. In Vicious Overgrowth, the Dara Lee, but that's the only option right now.
It's going to be interesting to see if Jez does do that because Daru Lee isn't. Yeah, they opted not to. Daru Lee is just not that impactful of a unit. You see that they have an awkward curve. It's probably going to be a 2-1. Just an eager recruit for the time being. So saving that overgrowth can let you take out Auto Tread, Amora, Houndmaster, all units that can take over the game.
Well, on the other side of things, we are going to see Theo fire off that Vicious Overgrowth, take care of that Iron Priestess. The Overmaster streaming over at the Overmaster, of course, no stranger to the TNEs, competed in both the Spring and the Winter Invitationals, so one of the few players that competed in both Invitationals, and it has a stream over at twitch.tv/the Overmaster, part of Team Barbarian Camp. And jez2718, I think one of the newer players. We don't have any bio info, but Team Rankstar, is this somebody that you have tested with, Boxer?
Yeah, yeah, I test with them a lot. They've actually played the game for a long time. I think longer than I have, but they only joined TRS uh, after SPG fell apart. We got a couple of those guys, and then uh, TGP kind of was falling apart, and we picked up The Rock and Jez.
All right.
Uh, so yeah, one of the more recent additions. Oh, and a Romanova. Yeah, The Rock, Jez, and a Romanova are the yeah.
The intricate dynamics of competitive Eternal teams, I'm sure. Urlord, thank you so much for the follow. I'm sorry I missed that about 20 minutes ago, but thank you so much for the follow. Thank you, everyone, for the follows. We appreciate the support of the series. I know this is kind of a weird time, sort of between opens with Expedition on a weird night, but we appreciate everybody being here. So, Short Hopper from Theo, going to grab Lay Siege and going to throw that in the void. Permafrost going to be the response from Jez. Interesting though. That is such an interesting play though. When you short hopper something that gives endurance to the void, and then your opponent responds by permafrosting something. That's little alarm bells start to go off in my head there.
Yeah, although I don't know, I think this is Jez saying that he wants to end the game quickly, and if Theo is spending the time to pay 6 to get back a Lacey, like even if they hit 6 to begin with and then spend that much
Mm-hmm.
and then play the Lacey's, they're happy enough with perma, preventing 3-4 turns of
Sure. Even
blocking or attacking from the
so, even if it's dealt with
short.
eventually, it buys the time and it kind of slows down. And it ends up, even if it ends up being a tempo play versus a permanent solution,
Yeah.
that's still fine. A Seat of Order, the draw here for Theo, so that'll be potentially 6th power, although with 2 copies of Auto Tread in your hand, you gotta do that math and think about whether you want that power or whether it's better as a ping.
Yeah, Jazz just is not putting up a fast enough clock for that perma play to pay off. Uh, Look at his hand. He's stuck with 5s and 4s. And
Yeah.
technique. Oh, somewhat aggressive manacles. Just well, I guess maybe it's not that. Jazz has no answers to it, so you don't always need to get the one with the manacles. I'm just playing it as a sleigh here.
Yeah, so Theo is going to play out one of the auto treads and is going to play out the power there. So going down to one card in hand with that auto tread, but drawing a vicious overgrowth for turn. Now they do know, as you mentioned, open deck list, so they should know about the Crusader having 3 health. Might need to just double check just to be sure, but is it worth firing off the overgrowth here and taking out that 2/3? Ooh, gonna get that lay siege this turn. All right.
Yeah, Jazz just is not putting up enough pressure. There's nothing to punish Theo from drawing that. Okay, this Crusader's going to deal 2. 13 still a relatively healthy life total. If Jez doesn't hit power drops, then...
I was going to say, Jez did not have a power for turn, and that was going to be brutal missing that, but did draw blueprints. Now it's still going to be tough, still playing from behind here, but kind of critical to draw some sort of power development there.
We're just going to see a lay siege here. I don't think we'll see an overgrowth. We might see the second outtread. Trying to get fancy here with the attacking and then playing lay siege. Nope, that's not going to cut it. Oh, interesting. I don't understand. The 6 damage is so much. I get that you can possibly ambush stuff with the readying it, but Theo's not going to win the long game here.
Gonna go with vicious overgrowth instead there, but that's gonna get Argo's technique not to counter but to pump up the unit. That's gonna survive that damage, essentially countering the overgrowth.
Yeah, or like there's not many different things Jez can have in hand if they're not playing out cards at this point. So Theo should have close to as good of a picture as we do of Jez's hand, and that like of Elise, if Theo had saved the overgrowth, he could have pinged with the auto thread and played the overgrowth on the Valise.
Yeah, now that option is sort of off the table, so that Valise looks like it's probably going to stick around here. You know, Theo has potentially the option to throw away their entire hand to kill that Valise, but that doesn't seem like a good out either.
Yeah, now I think Jez is pretty far ahead after this last turn.
And hitting that 4th power, as we mentioned with that blueprints, was helpful. Now 4 copies. I'm sorry, the full 4 of a kind Argo Ironthorn in hand is gonna be tough without a 5th power. But a 2nd copy of Valise, a Vicious Overgrowth, in case you don't draw power, and if Jez does draw power, following up with a chain of Ironthorns might be it.
Okay, you do that, but Jez can even block here.
Yes, I'm gonna throw 3 cards to kill the Hidden Crusader. And attacking with the auto tread. But yeah, Jez is happy to just take 4. You know, 10 is not 0, so happy to just take 4 there, keep the Davia around. An undepleted power would be huge here for Jez, because if Jez can slam Argo Ironthorn here... Ooh, Seat of Order, so good power, but not undepleted. But that's okay. You still have another copy of Valise. I wonder if it's just play the power, play Valise, and pass it back.
Yeah, I think that's the line, and then it'll be interesting to see if Theo goes for the lay siege, because then Jez will chump and block. One Valise will go on the 2/1, one Valise will go on the 6/4. Jez will take 4, and then can play the Argo. If there's no lay siege, then Jez can just block.
Yeah, if you just block and play the Argo next turn, that'll be really good.
Yeah, and then like sure, that'll eat the Valise, but the 6-4 didn't attack then.
Right.
Uh,
Seems like
and
either
then
way, it's good for Jez.
yeah, it's really a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing here. The one way Theo wins is if Jez doesn't value his life total enough, which after that block last turn, I think could be possible. I think
Interesting. Okay,
yeah,
so we're gonna see a vicious overgrowth on the Darli, which is gonna. I was gonna say force. I guess it doesn't even technically force your hand, but Theo is gonna respond with that Lay Siege there. So it gets the Lay Siege out of Theo's hand, pops that permafrost on the short hopper. So 6-4 opened up. Good draw with Dovid here. But did get that Lay Siege out of hand. I guess that's one benefit to that play is you kind of force the Overmaster to say, okay, play your Lay Siege or lose your Darli.
Houndmaster, it's great for Theo. If it doesn't draw much, okay, it could also draw Valise. It could draw even an Overgrowth would be good. Oh, it didn't draw anything.
Nothing whiffed on it, yeah.
So now Jez should block the 6-4. I don't see like the.
Yeah, I have to block. Obviously, I have to block something because it's lethal attack. So then it's, do you value the higher attack unit, the 6-4, and go down to 4, or do you value taking out the auto tread so it can't ping you to death in future turns?
Yeah, I don't understand that. Jez's life total is essentially how many Argos he can possibly play, and he
Oh, there's the
shouldn't be
first
valued
one.
very highly because his hand is just absolutely stacked.
Yeah, there's one and 3 more copies in hand, as well as the manacles, but Argo kind of does that job for now.
Yeah, this was it can uh be a bit more uh brutal here because I practice with Jez a lot. This was Jez's game to lose last year. This Jez should have been valuing his life total more here.
Sure.
Because I don't know how you lose if you just get to slam all the. I guess this isn't losing here, but you.
All right, well, then they are gonna. It is gonna allow Jez to attack in and get those double damage. Now Jez has the same play available next turn and can give both Iron Thorns double damage. So I think still, how many Argos can you play? I think it's still gonna be enough here. Yeah, this will just be lethal in this turn. So
Yeah, this is lethal here.
maybe made this one closer than it had to be. I'm not sure, but but yeah. It turns out 1 Argo's good, 2 Argos are great, 3 Argos are pretty busted. If in the right matchup.
Yeah, well, it's one of those cards you want to draw in every matchup, I think. It's good if you're trying to push through damage, it's good if you're behind, it's a 6-3 if you're against controlling that, like, buffs up your other things. Uh, yeah, it's one of the big reasons to play. Well, I was gonna say it's one of the big reasons to play soldiers, but Theo's list doesn't have enough power to play Argo, so I actually like the exclusion of Argo in this list because 27 power just with you see Jez get away with playing Argo with 27 power because of Dovid for the sketch, not the sketch, the runes, but Theo can't afford to play any runes in this deck, so that's why there's.
While they're getting into their game, we've got some back reports from the back tables. Alexandros Gray is going to take a 2-0 over Duocat. Arcade 2-0 over Spifferific. I'm So Bad taking it over Dumpster Baby. And then in the matchup of 3-0s there, Croge over Parmalee. On the pair down, Avion over Ash Acer and Phoenix over John Kekez. So that's going to put Croge and I'm So Bad tied at 3-0 in that 3-0 slot. So congrats to both of them. That's a good start to a tournament like this. All right, let's head down. Our players are ready for game 2. So it looks like we've got Jez on the play after taking game 1. How much does play draw you think matter in this matchup? Seems like it's pretty important.
Yeah, you're both playing to the board, and you have, like, both players have 1 and 2 drops. Uh, yeah, in this matchup, card advantage doesn't really matter a ton. It's all about tempo. So yeah, play draw is huge.
Jez going to be able to get
You
out with a
don't
powerful
want-
1-drop as well with that Darrelly. So being on the play and having that turn 1 Darrelly is pretty nice.
It's especially brutal for Theo to be on the draw because Houndmaster is not a card that does much when you're on the back foot.
Yeah. Well, the Overmaster did draw Dovid, so having that turn 2 Dovid. But yeah, Jez is going to go 1-2 here, and they've got 1-2-3 coming, plus Argo Ironthorn as well. Here comes the Dovid for the blocker, though. Let's see if Theo can flip anything off of it.
I have trouble telling if they're just thinking or if they didn't hit anything and are sad and not clicking to the next thing yet.
Yeah, it's not very clear, but did flip a Valise off of that one. So good Dovid there, playing blocking duty and getting the Bear Rider. Jazz going to start off the turn with the blueprints to make sure that they hit their 3rd power here. Can't miss that third power. So unfortunately for Jez, going to have to take a turn off of deploying to the board, but you're going to have to do that. You can't be stuck at 2 power for the game. So
Probably, yeah. There's no player here other than Houndmaster. You probably play it. I don't even know if which power you play matters. Probably fire because I don't think there's any double fire.
it probably doesn't matter, but going to go with that Fire Sigil and then play out the Houndmaster, as you said. Good hand, though. I mean, Theo's hand, especially now that Theo's going to be at 4 power, 2 copies of Eliza Shorthopper and another Houndmaster. That's a good hand in this matchup. Not being able to deploy out to the board last turn for Jez and having to go get that power and now missing power number 4, I think is going to really hurt in this game.
Yeah, not getting the higher power drops means you can't, like, Valise and Argo are possibly the most important cards for Jez to play. The Jailer's fine, but it's just a worse Auric record keeper this time, at least for this turn. Can't block anything here. These 2 drops are bigger than the 3 drop.
Yeah. Yeah, when Theo's 2 drops are doing more work than your higher cost spells, higher cost units, and you're missing power. Now, Manacles, I could buy some time. Yeah, that's pretty good here.
That stuns Valise and Dovid, and you get to hit in for either 7 or 8, depending on if you want to grow the Jailer, which you probably, yeah, I like just attacking with 2 here, because you're trading 1 damage now for +1/+1. There's some Manacles from the other side, though. Because
the other side's going to help Theo Master. That's a good way to shut the door. It's crazy that Theo's at 7 here because it's felt like Theo has had all the board advantage and has been playing it out, but I guess does not have the life total advantage because, yeah, looking down 7 to 14, the Manacles might have been really important. The power draw, that's unfortunate. I guess, yeah, you have the Argos technique. Yeah, not having on when you're behind on power, drawing depleted power is just feels bad.
So this attack is kind of interesting because it's not unreasonable for Theo to block there because I believe Argos technique is the only possible trick. And I guess Theo doesn't know about the Crusader, but if you actually no, Jez having a painting was hidden information. But still, if it was like a power into a Valise, or you still trading 1 for 1 if the technique happens. And so forcing Jez to use the trick, I don't think is a bad idea. Probably don't discard. The Grenadin looks kind of silly here, but it's 2 jump blockers, so I don't think you discard it. Yeah, Houndmaster's not what you want. Oh, another Grenadin is a good draw. Yeah, I was just thinking about if any blocks he can make will shorten the clock. Or not shorten, lengthen the clock from Theo's presenting. Jez missed unpowered just too many times.
That, like you said, the Grenadin really good there just for the chump block, but also kind of hidden information there. Jez having to make those blocks or line up what they were doing, not knowing that Theo's going to be able to play out a 1-drop chump blocker as well is pretty nice. And like you said, I think just missing power too many times. Just didn't get to curve out in this game. Here goes
Okay, maybe it's
technique.
not entirely over. That gains 4.
Yeah.
You can play out the Hidden Crusader, which stunning doesn't actually stop. Because if you stun it, it makes a soldier.
Okay.
Well, the one in hand.
Now Theo should be able to fly over as well, right? With this short hopper. Just play out some chump blockers, play out another Dovid and a Gleaming Grenadin will block pretty well. Like next turn, if you went short hopper, give it flying, play out another Gleaming Grenadin, that's a lot of blockers to get through. There's no Valise, right, to give.
Jez has at most 3 health to block, 8 overwhelm. Oh wait, no. Theo just makes a hound. Theo can play overgrowth, make a hound. This is over.
Yeah, with overgrowth there. It may not even have needed it, but yeah, you can tandem attack, get a hound, play overgrowth. So what do you have to pay? You have to pay power equal to the number of cards in your hand. So
you can think of every card in your hand as being kind of cost decreased by 1 when you're counting it for Houndmaster math, because or I guess maybe that's kind of complicated. Playing the overgrowth gets you to 3 cards in hand, and you have 3 power, so you can afford to do that.
Mm-hmm. But you can't if you do this first. Well, there you go. I was gonna say if you attacked first, though, you would have 4 cards in hand, and so you wouldn't be able to then cast the overgrowth afterwards, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it matters though, because this is 8 overwhelm. Wait, did not make a hound.
Did not, but drew a second copy of Vicious Overgrowth, so maybe.
Yeah, the first overgrowth is enough.
Yeah.
There were a lot of ways to play.
There were a lot of ways to win that one. Yep. So Theo's gonna take that one. It's a little bit of a complicated game there, chat, trying to see all the different outs, but Theo gonna take that one and tie that up. So that's gonna be 1 game apiece. Our players are going to go to game 3. So let's pull up Theo's deck one more time. Let's take a look at Jez's deck as well, since we've seen Theo's deck at the last 2 breaks. See if there's anything spicy that Jez is bringing to the table tonight. Both these players are 2-0 also, so this will be another 3-0 player.
Yeah, this is the exact same list as Noverb. Jez talked highly of the soldiers list, so a couple of the TRS guys just decided to play it. There's 2 flickers, the 4 manacles, which is just another insane. Like I said before, this card's insane in the mirror. It's a double slay, except for Lay Siege. But under most circumstances, there's just no way to get out under it because of the market options in Expedition. It's just not advantageous to play a market in these. Like, grafters are so incredibly slow when you're trying to play to the board and end the game quickly, paying 3 to draw, to trade it, not even draw, just to trade a card in your hand for somebody in the market, and with the limited card pool of Expedition, you're likely going to have to get a more expensive card. So there's not as much room for a lot of decks to adapt to relics. Like you can't play soldiers and worry about troublesome relics.
Yep. Well, Jez gets the advantage of going first again in game 3. Unfortunately, that's all random from our end. Nothing we can do about it. But I think, was that a depleted power there on turn 1? Yeah, Rune of Trickery was the only primal, so that's actually really awkward not being able to play out. Depleted is going to be kind of behind, actually, even though it went first on playing out this Darli. So Theo's also going to play out a Darli on their turn 1, so going to take actually kind of a step ahead. So interesting how that played out. But Theo's hand is pretty strong. You've got Darli into Dovid with 2 Houndmasters. It's a pretty good way to start. And importantly, Theo's power is coming in undepleted.
I don't know if that was a keep from Jez. That hand was depleted power into depleted power. And I hate going to 6 probably more than most people, but you're playing the Soldier's Mirror. Tempo matters a lot. You don't even have that strong of a hand if you draw power.
Wow.
Okay, Manacle.
Look at this. Missing second power, or missing third power, stuck at 2, plays out a Dovid because that's the only good play, and hits the Rune of Treachery, getting that amplify value off the power to make sure that they hit their third power on turn 3. Pretty fortunate there that was on top of the deck.
The best Amber Acolyte ever.
Wow.
Theo can play out some Houndmaster. It'll be interesting to see if he plays out one Houndmaster and activates, or
both
plays out
Houndmasters.
both.
Yeah, gotta play out both Houndmasters. Yeah,
you get them going. They're so good, and yeah, Jez is just stuck on power.
Yeah, stuck on power again. Now, at least Jez can deploy units this turn, but really, like you said, your powers in your 4 and 5 drops. You want to be able to hit those Valises and Argos, and not being able to do that now. Did draw an Argo for turn, but still a couple turns to Justice Influence and 2 power away from playing that. Yeah, on the other side of things, Theo's got too much. Theo's getting a virtual 7 power with nothing in hand, no action in hand, so.
This is a chump attack with the Houndmaster that attacks, so I think Theo's still going to do it because he gets 2 4/4s. But the Houndmaster will die.
Yeah.
Jez will take 13.
Yeah, I think that's still a great attack, though. Making multiple Hounds there. Pretty strong.
Yeah, Daruli is not going to do it.
Yeah, Darli there.
So if you're wondering changes to make to the Soldiers deck after this tournament, I think I've just seen this happen too many times with the Hulu Soldiers. I think you should go up to 29 power, even if you're trying to play Argo. 27 isn't enough, even with Dovid. You want the 29.
If it wasn't over before, that's also a good draw. At least going to give things overwhelm also. I think this should probably be it, right? You're going to get 2 more Hounds, or 1 more Hound, sorry. 1 more Hound, but plus also +1/+1 and overwhelm. Should be plenty.
I think it's settled whether or not the tandem cards would have an effect on constructed. I know some people said it was like a draft mechanic, but
yeah,
these cards are insane. Valise, Amarok, Houndmaster are just some of the best units in the game in both formats.
Yeah, that's true. Think about how many tandem cards we've seen already. They've been super impactful. All right, so this is 11 overwhelm damage plus 4. Yeah, can't block that way. You're gonna have to put. If you if you block the 4/4, you have to put 7's not going to be enough. Well, I guess you can block the 4/4, put 7 in front of chump the 4/4, put 7 in front of the other two, but that's I don't know how you're winning the next turn on that. I guess technically you can survive. Yeah, you can survive this way too. Okay, so it's not fully lethal, but
well, or it is lethal.
Or it is. That's fine. Block like that. All right. Well, congratulations, the Overmaster, on taking that one.